Today is a special show where we put the spotlight on the founder of Cred. He's an angel investor, an entrepreneur, and the founder of the well-known fintech company Cred and FreeCharge. I'm talking about Kunal Shah. We'll be talking about how the fintech app has launched a unified money management dashboard to bring all customer data as well as payments on a single platform by the name of Cred Money. We'll also get an insight as to how he's looking at the competitive intensity, how he's looking at India as an investment destination, and what the outlook is to young startup entrepreneurs. So let's welcome him on board. Thank you so much, Kunal, for taking time out. I'm going to begin with Cred Money. What really is the rationale to launch this? Because I believe that the user experience and the problems that it solved is basically to eliminate friction in financial decision making. How does that work?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you for having me, and super excited about Cred Money and the opportunity it creates for the affluent customers to make their relationship with money dramatically better. We believe that when consumers are of a certain affluence, they tend to have multiple bank accounts, multiple UPI apps, multiple loan EMIs, multiple investments, a lot of things going on in their life, and they're constantly trying to make more money, but also kind of get distracted about trying to make sure that they're not having anything that is kind of getting impacted. At Cred, what we did is that when we started with credit cards, we said it should not be so hard to remember your dues, to pay your bills on time, to pay them frictionlessly, and to be able to get rewarded for demonstrating good behavior. We believe that this should be kind of extended to all sorts of financial behaviors and financial transactions. And Cred Money kind of makes that easy. What we are doing is, hey, just in case you have an EMI due, we'll make sure that you do not miss having that account fueled with that money. Because a lot of times the salary account is different than where the loan is getting fueled in. When it comes to investments, to make sure that your money on SIP is not getting missed and bounced, insurance dues, right? Like a lot of times we have a recurring insurance payment and we have not kind of made sure that we have paid that well. When it comes to, let's say, recurring transactions, a very unique problem for affluent customers. They have lots of subscriptions, lots of SIPs. We make it easy for you to categorize, know, and kind of plan for these things better. Also, cash flow view, right? We want to kind of give you a unified view across your bank accounts to be able to manage your cash flow. What's the income? What are your spends? What are your investments? What's your kind of end of the month status looking like? So the idea is that if we are to personify Cred Money, we want to think of this as a somewhat like a CFO that you have for your life, and that kind of makes it easy for you to be good in demonstrating good financial behavior and not getting negatively impacted for having any misses here and there.
Sean, Kunal, I also believe that among the young affluent customers, as per the data that you guys have been garnering, it's UPI that is gaining a lot of popularity, which is why you're aggressively looking at targeting the real-time mobile payment customer. Tell us a little bit more about what exactly the data is indicating and what is your long-term plan with Cred Money?
Yeah, if you think about UPI for affluent, it's akin to what happened to telco back in the day when it launched, right? There used to be lots of incoming customers and a few outgoing customers because the cost of calling was much higher. If you look at UPI, the affluent customers are the ones who are usually sending a lot of money out, right? They may not have as many incoming transactions, but they usually are the ones who are sending the highest amount of transactions outside, be it merchant, be it P2P, and so on and so forth. So what we notice is that since the beginning of Cred, and we will be completing 6 years in November, it used to be barely 2-3 transactions per customer per month on UPI. And that's kind of really gone up to like 20-30 transactions or even more on an average. And to our means, we do not have this data, but our gut tells us that probably 50-60% of all UPI transactions are probably done by 30-35 million customers in India. And they are actually contributing to the largest adoption for a lot of people who want to receive money from these customers, right? So it's kind of causing this interesting loop. We obviously see that data in our thing. We are the fourth largest UPI player right now, I would say, late entrant into this category, but because we are focused on a segment of customers, we are able to kind of solve for the use cases.
But, Kunal, one can't, deny the fact that there are a lot of well-established players within this space, a lot of big players that are dominating this space. Are you worried about the competitive intensity? What is the USP for Cred Money?
We are very focused on the members that we want to go after, and we believe that our value proposition is unique. We do not really operate with competitive mindset. We look at how would I solve this problem for myself or somebody in the team members, and eventually, if it seems to provide value, we're able to kind of get it to the people. I believe that we are in the early days of fintech. We I think overthink about competition and competitive intensity. We are barely scratching the surface on what potential. Let's think about this. I would say 45 to 50% of India's PAT is financial services. Probably 35 to 40% of India's market cap is financial services. Fintechs are just getting started, and all the digital public infrastructure, UPI, account aggregators, so many of these things. We are all starting to kind of get used to some of these apps and starting to start doing something more material on these apps. So our goal is to focus on creating value for our members, and we focus on a segment of users. We are not trying to build this for every member in India. We are very focused as a company, and the intent is that their problems, their use cases are very, very different. Missing EMIs and missing SIP is a not India-wide problem. It's a very specific problem, and I think that's where we will have our edge.
So I'm just curious as to what really the reason is to expand beyond credit card payments. You're looking at wealth management, e-commerce, travel, even automotive products and services over the last few quarters. What really is the reason for all of this?
Well, it's simply creating more value for our members. We believe that there are many problems that are not solved uniquely for this cohort. For example, when we launched Garage, we realized that our members tend to have multiple vehicles, and it becomes hard for them to manage and track their insurance and track their challans and manage their driving license and registration certificate. And it seems to be a very unique problem, which probably matters to 25, 30 million customers. And we wanted to just kind of focus on that. And we do not come from the automobile category. We come from, hey, this is a problem that these set of members would be facing. Can we make it easy and exciting for them to be able to do this? And today, fast forward, it's not even a year, probably in Garage, we have like a 5-6 million vehicles parked on the platform, and we are just getting started on some of these products. So it's about building products that would matter and would appeal to a set of members whose life is relatable and has these kind of issues.
Sure. So what about, how you're looking at the Cred user growth? How exactly is that shaping up? There has been some data or reports talking about how numbers are plateauing out. Is there any truth to that? What's your market share?
Well, not really. I don't know where that comes from. We are consistently growing, and we are also consistently growing the number of products that we serve to each member. Yes, we are not trying to go after hundreds of millions of customers. Avanne, let me give you an interesting stat. In India, 35 to 40 million customers probably control 75 to 80% of all retail deposits. So growth in numbers is not material as long as we can create growth in depth of relationships, growth in revenue, growth in profitability. These are the exact things that we will be focusing on. We have always been clear what's the universe of customers that we're going after.
Fair enough. And as you spoke about, you guys are really doubling down on the premium customer strategy rather than targeting a wider customer base. Can you just tell us a little bit more about how that's really working for you?
Yeah, so far working really well for us. We have managed to make a big dent in these set of users, Cred almost, if it means if you go to and speak to any room, you will see at least in these settings, most of them will be Cred members, and it's kind of growing quite rapidly on that front. And they're also adopting more products that we're offering, which is where we feel more confidence. We had no business being in the automobile category, but the fact that we saw so much of traction gives us the confidence that if you build well-crafted, well thought through, high quality products, consumers will adopt it. And when it comes to the strategy, we never had a strategy to kind of go and expand this to every Indian. We were focused on a set of customers. Now, in terms of what's working well, the depth of a relationship is growing quite rapidly. We have shipped many products in the last 24 months or so, and we see consistently the excitement in members to adopt, and the appreciation for us having a unique view on addressing their issues versus trying to build a generic product for them.
And how are some of the launches like Cred Flash, Cred Escapes, Periscope, Cred Garage faring? Some of them have been wound up. How are each of them doing?
All of them are doing decently well. We did take a call to wind down Periscope, so that's something that we did. But I would say that Credit has been very fortunate for almost having close to 90-95% success rate on all the products that we launch in terms of getting critical adoption and constantly growing. We are very deliberate, and I would say been painfully slow a lot of times to launch products. Like Cred Money was built for many months, probably close to a year of work gone into it. Garage was built for a year before we launched it. So we as a company don't believe in launching fast and doing something. We like to be very thoughtful, very deliberate, and constantly think that. And one more thing that we follow is we first launch for our team internally. And when we believe that 80-90% of our team finds extreme value in it, we kind of take it to our members, right? And that philosophy allows us to kind of constantly create trust, build good quality products, and versus kind of be fast for the sake of being fast and not see any traction.
And, Kunal, you've been very vocal about the importance of understanding consumer behavior in order to build a successful startup. Can you share with us some of the key insights or some of the patterns that you've known over the years, and what startups or companies who are operating in this space can do better to improve their leverage and their dynamics?
Yeah, it's a great question. If you see the early batch of Indian startups, they were largely ideas that existed in other countries that were kind of replicated over here with great amount of success. But if you really understand the Indian consumer, you will realize that there are so many wide gaps that exist. For example, a product like Cred doesn't exist. And interestingly, we see a lot of customers who are actually now living abroad using Cred because they're managing the Indian credit cards over here. They moved for some short period of time for work over there, and they constantly tell us that, hey, why don't we have a product like this in US, in UK, in Dubai, and so on and so forth. And the reason is that when you focus on the true insight on what are the real problems that that country has, you might be able to create original ideas. And I think if you really want large profit pools, large revenue pools for your business as a startup, it's important to understand the consumer behavior and what their nuances are. For example, India is known to have publicly known that we spend a lot of money on weddings. But how many wedding unicorns do we have, right? Now, I'm not saying that, hey, people are not trying it. I'm just saying that understanding the consumer behavior will create an interesting edge for you to be able to create valuable products for them. But a lot of times we take Western ideas. For example, at one point of time, there were 10 startups funded for doing laundry in India, right? Like, it's not a problem for Indians because of our, let's say, domestic help infrastructure that we have, but it might be a problem in somebody living in the New York City, right? So I think we tend to not understand the nuances of consumer behavior, and therefore we sort of struggle for a lot of time. And I think the success rate of startups could dramatically improve, or scaling rate would improve if we truly understood what truly motivates the Indian consumer.
And we've seen the buzzword of the year, which has without a doubt been AI. So how are you looking at the rapidly evolving AI landscape? Would you label it a boon or a bane?
I think the most dangerous thing is to categorize the technology into categories of boon and bane. That's the most dangerous thing we can do to ourselves. Every time something dramatically improves, it does have an impact on society. But in the long run, it's always positive. In the short run, we are confused. For example, when Google Maps and other maps technology or GPS technology came, and our auto rickshaws had to adopt to use these apps. It was initially very confusing and painful, but over a period of time, every single person who was driving rickshaw, their revenue went up, right? Because they're able to be more efficient about where should they be and where should they pick up customers and drop customers and so on and so forth, because it controlled through an algorithm. Now, in the past, internet made information available through the air, right? What Gen AI is doing is kind of bringing expertise or intelligence through the air, right? And I think leveraging that in a country like India could be immensely valuable, because we should not forget that we also serve a lot of global customers through a lot of our companies that we do. Now, imagine a software company powered with Gen AI or a BPO company powered with Gen AI, right? We'll be able to kind of make a huge impact to the world, because we are probably the largest English speaking nation, and our ability to kind of take a lot of these challenging environments and jobs to ourselves would just become very easy now. So I think I'm mostly excited and bullish. It is a confusing period because we are trying to really understand. It's a new thing, but you will start seeing some impacts coming quite quickly. But in a country like India, like imagine if Gen AI could come into an X-ray machine and you could do an X-ray in a cost of a Xerox copy, and automatically, instead of having a radiologist kind of uh, review everything, what if we could create a radiologist grade X-ray machine that can tell you without having to do a review? Now, these are the interesting possibilities. I think it's a great time to be imaginative versus kind of start to worry about boon and bane. What I can tell though is every single person not many years ago was able to join the workforce basis if they understood internet or not. I think very soon we will see that understanding of Gen AI and usage of Gen AI becoming a mandatory skill to be employed going forward across the world.
So which are the sectors that you believe have massive potential to grow, to really blow up in India? And how are you looking at the investment landscape, the startup landscape in India at present? How would it compare with the rest of the globe?
Well, I think Indian startup ecosystem remains vibrant. We go through these. It's been 16 years for me now building tech startups one way or the other. I mean, the cycles of we tend to judge the ecosystem based on the cycles of funding. But let's be honest, we have publicly listed tech companies, profitable, very valuable, which was not the case many years ago. Now we have multiple companies in 5, 10, $20 billion valuations. I would say 25, 27% of US stock market is tech companies. I would say we are probably less than 2, 3% of our market cap is tech companies. We have a long way to go. And more and more people are getting into entrepreneurship. More and more startups are getting built and killed. I want to just say that we need to build more tolerance. Startups are inherently risky. 90% of funded startups across the world don't make it. I don't think we have culturally accepted failure. And I think the big change that I'm expecting in the next 10 years is that we become a lot more tolerant and welcoming of failure, and make it a vibrant ecosystem for more people to take risk. Because if we want to move from a company of job seekers to job creators, we need to start celebrating risk takers.
And finally, share with us any pearls of wisdom that you may have on advice to young entrepreneurs, to startups. Do they need to be, taking more risks? Is it that they need to be focusing on profitability? What would be the key metrics that they need to focus on?
Just remember that we are all in the business of creating value for the customers we serve. And if we do that consistently without getting lost by all these fancy things about being tagged as unicorn, being tagged for evaluation, being tagged for all of these things, ultimately we are businesses, and as long as we can keep our focus, do fewer things, do them really, really well, and ensure that we are able to create good outcome for everybody who's trusted us, our team members, our investors, our customers. Eventually, we'll all be like bearing the fruit of that, and not get distracted by all sorts of things that happen around you.
Well, I like that, and I'm sure that'll be taken down well. Kunal, it's been such a pleasure interacting with you. Thank you so very much for joining us on this special edition of Startup Central.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.